Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. As you can tell from the voice, it's been a hard enough weekend. Anyway, I'm back from Toaster and we are going to look back on what was a wonderful, wonderful weekend of racing, both in Ireland and, of course, in the UK. I'm joined, as always, by the exiled Tommy Lyons. He is more exiled than normal. He's on his hollybops. He's also had the company of a few birds. You might hear some chirping as we go on. And that's not just the normal chirping we hear from Tommy, but indeed the birds in the background. The Dublin Doyen is also on site. Declan O'Donoghue, of course, fresh from the Sporting Press online edition Irish Oaks and Saturday night. And Declan, it was a cracking display. It was obviously not a very satisfactory race. There was plenty of traffic on the opening corner. Thankfully, all the bitches involved were fine, but we did see a stunning display by a bitch who no doubt waited for the right night to produce a career best display in Carrigmore Freya.
Yeah, she had been one of the top performers throughout the competition, and she's quite experienced. But very often in mid career, they can just find that bit extra, and she's been superb. And I think it was a very unsatisfactory race. Obviously, that's to put it very mildly, but a very deserving winner. I don't think she would have been caught from where she was, and 28:17, and many people suggest the track was actually running a bit slow. Some of the times we got for the performance that we're seeing, but she was away and gone. She was brilliant. But you have to feel for connections of the other five runners. They never really got a run at it. The second and third ran very solid races, but they made trouble as well. And the other three, unfortunately, were never at the races at all.
Yeah, certainly not. I suppose, Tommy, you can. It's hard to disagree with Declan. Everything he said there. This bitch, she had a great draw in between the two sort of, the two seen as the slower starters, as it was. Black Eye Turbo came away racing, but Carrigmore Freya, simply too much early speed for them. And as early as 15 yards into this contest, it was effectively over.
Yeah, I think we called it last week because of where she was drawn in foot with four and sixes, kind of slow enough starters. We called it that she'd probably turn in front of those, and maybe it would have been a case that she mightn't have laid. We thought, but she might be too strong enough. But once she did, it was all over. It was all over. I mean, it's a really good performance. I know it's unsatisfactory. We never want to see any trouble in any race, but at the same time, Sadie's Lucy turned second, an early pacer. Carrigmore Frey, who has a bit of early pace, turned in front. It wasn't, like the English Derby, which is we'll talk about after a while, which I think was deeply unsatisfactory in execution, not in result, but just in execution. So, look, it's always unfortunate, especially your connections. I mean, you get hyped up all week thinking about a final. You're in the final of an Oaks. It's a fantastic thing to be. It's a prestigious race to be involved in. But there's nothing better for a bitch to be involved in an Oaks final, and then for to miss kicks or get trouble and all that. It's just that's not satisfactory. But I do think we got a really, really good winner, and that's what we'll remember about it. It was a really top class performance by Carrigmore Freya, and I repeat myself here quite a lot about this. The prices were good. They held up. We talked about it last week. The three of us fancy Carrigmore Freya from the draw, and she was 9-4. I mean, that's a backable price. I know I thought she'd be bigger. You thought she'd be around about 9-4. It's still a good backable price in a race where you could figure out that it was going to happen, something like it did. So I would say great result, but just a bit unfortunate of a race.
Yeah, I suppose that's the key to it. Declan, it was a second Oaks success for Graham Holland. Obviously, not everything went to plan for Graham Holland on Saturday night. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But this is a second Oaks success after Ballydoyle Honey. And, I know she's a July. We didn't see her in Shelbourne Park before this Oaks. Do you know what I took out of Saturday night? The way she powered clear from the third bend. Like 550 yards won't be an issue for this lady. And they could certainly go into Derby Company on the back of this run.
Oh, very much, very much. Yeah, she has pace, and she stays. And it's a pity she has been in Sherborne because the track absolutely suits her. She just loves it. And there's no reason whatever. I see an interesting thing in the fixtures. Is the Puppy Derby before the Derby this year? Is that a new development?
Well, Declan, it's the wrong day to be
The,
asking me
the
these
gain
questions.
well on the race card. On the race card last Saturday night, it said the gain juvenile derby is on starts July 5th.
July 5th to the 26th of July, it's down for. And the Derby then starts a month later. I suppose having run it before it last year, maybe that's the case again this year. I don't know whether that has been altered or not, but it seems to be the case, all right. And I spoke with Billy Riley yesterday. They mentioned about the Puppy Derby. And funny enough, the way he said, and I said, "Would you not have a crack at the Derby?" I was thinking that I was in his normal slot. Of course, I had forgot about that. And he said, "Oh yeah, we'll have a go at the Derby as well." And I was going, "All right, okay, I'll get it." But now the head really wasn't in place yesterday. Be thinking about it too much. But now that makes more sense, where you've got some fast dogs going for the Puppy Derby who can then take their chance in the Derby itself. I suppose that's how it worked out last year. You know, Callaway Kinnegair obviously won the Juvenile Derby, went on to finish third in the Derby itself. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and we're not getting away from the Oaks, but there was a winner on Saturday night in the Champion Stakes, and he is made for both competitions. Left cornerback, that was just. I mean, the Oaks winner was by far the best performance of the night, but this one was second best. It was an incredible performance. He is one serious dog, and as you say, the option now of being able to go for juvenile first and then going to Derby afterwards, I think it's actually quite a good move.
Yeah, and there's not an awful lot more that needs to be said about the Oaks winner, Tommy. Nora Coffey and Graham Holland, they would have got great satisfaction out of this. Much like you said there, Tommy, the more I looked at it, the later the week went on, I think I would have had her more of a 6-4 chance than a 9-4 chance. And truthfully, she ran like a 3-1 on chance. It was over from early. Just a very talented lady, clearly in really in the form of her career. She's just about to turn 3 years of age, and I don't think we've seen the last of her this year.
No, but I think the market was putting a lot of weight in Lemon Orla, who couldn't lead. I've talked about it. She has shown more early pace in Curraheen Park, but it just hadn't been showing up in Shelbourne Park. And maybe it'll never show up again. Maybe that's just she's is where she is, maybe a length and a half, 2 lengths, maybe shorter pace into the first bend. And then you're crying for a bit of luck. You have 2 early pacers in 2 and 3. The makeup just wasn't there. You'd be hoping that a gap would appear along the inside for Lemon Orla. Had the race been trouble free, and that's what you would be looking for. But it made no difference the way it was. Carrigmore Freya was doing 28-17. You're just not going to come from behind in that anyway. So again, a shout out to those who priced it, because in fairness, you get a chance at least.
Yeah, daughters of Droopy Sydney first and second. We have to mention that Sadie's Lucy ran a hell of a race in second spot. In fairness to her, she was one of the good bitches through the whole competition, and deserved to finish in a prominent position. Back in third was Black Eyed Turbo. Never got a chance to really play a part in proceedings, having met the traffic at the opening corner. But Kevin Losty did what he needed to do. He got her out of traps. She couldn't hold her pitch into the opening corner. That's just racing. But in the end, finished a good third. A bit of black type there for those two. Declan.
Yeah, very much. Can I also say I think the winning connections, the owners actually bred the winner, which is a lovely touch as well. Second and third, very, very solid races, absolutely, and the second one has been improving through this competition. The third one we know very well, and that's the way she's ran all through it. Qualifying 5-5 is a bit short for her, but she ran a very, very solid race and a great performance by Kevin Losty, as you say.
Indeed, a third Oaks winner for Droopys Sydney. Just looking back at it, we're going to get talking about the Droopys stud, but like since 2016, Droopys Scolari, Droopys Jet, Droopys Sydney, and here's another Droopys Sydney. It's just remarkable achievement. But yeah, Carrigmore Freya beating Sadie's Lucy, and back in third was Black Eyed Turbo. Thankfully, as we said, everyone was all good. Right, now we're going to head back to the undercard at Shelbourne Park. We had the opening round heats of the Corn Cuchulainn before we get to the champion at 5:50. We'll go through these very quickly, lads. The first heat won by Droopy's Comrade, 42-21. I think the track was a bit heavy in the earlier stages of the evening. There was obviously a lot of rain and whatnot, but there was races where you think, wow, that's a good time. And then there's races where you go, God, I was expecting that to be much faster. This was one of those races I thought it would be certainly faster than 42-21, because there wasn't an awful lot of traffic in the race. Droopy's Comrade emerging a good winner, though, Declan.
Yes, can I just say, Ian, now that I'm on, this is the Donald Beattie Memorial Corn Cuchulainn. I was privileged enough to know Donald, an absolute gentleman who was taken from us way before his time. And it's lovely that his family are remembering in this way. The first heat, I was amazed. We're talking pricing here early on. The Oaks line, Droopy's Comrade was 6-1. I'm not sure where that price came from. I didn't find out until too late, unfortunately. But he's been running a very, very solid race. Fraser Black has his dogs in tremendous form at the moment. A good performance. The runner up here ran a blinder, Clonagh Ice. who's been 5-5 runner until now. Well, she finished best of all. So Pat Buckley has a strong hand with that one, and obviously his other winner who was brilliant. But yeah, Droopys Comrade is a very solid performer at his level, and he could go deep in this competition.
Yeah, not the comrade that took the plaudits on Saturday night, shall we say? A full brother rather than of a repeat mating to the Derby champion in England, Droopys Plunge, was Droopys Comrade. So it's a fair double. A 6-pin winner in Shelbourne Park and a Derby winner over in Towster. Tommy Droopys Comrade, just a solid campaigner. 6-1 does seem a big price, but it was obviously floods of cash for the big two, Clona Ice and Born to Perform, who, like, while no form for Clona Ice looks absolutely tailor-made to be a 750-yard runner, while Born to Perform had 41.06 in our card at Limerick. Didn't look likely to do that the other evening, but Droopys Comrade simply too strong.
Yeah, well, what Droopys Comrade did the other night, and when we talked about Droopys Comrade last year, and we were kind of getting a bit frustrated with him, he wasn't running a bend where it was tight. He was coming out of there. If there's any potential of getting a bit of trouble, he's actually doing that now. You watch his races again. You watch where he went through, where he attacked the bends. Actually, that's encouraging to see. The time mightn't be what we would have expected of a dog of his ability, but at least it's I know he's getting on a bit now, but it's a step very much in the right direction.
Yeah. The second heat was the fastest of the heat winners, Braveheart Bambi. She's very strong, Declan. That's 2 from 2 over 6 bends. She comes from off the pace. She looks like a real stare. She looked like she'd make a real stare, but sometimes when they go over the trip, you don't know if they'll get it or not. Well, this lady is certainly getting it, Declan. God, she's a bright future.
She actually needs this trip. Yeah, she's outstanding at it. Yeah, the danger is obviously she's going to give a few of them some as we go through the round. She'll be giving some of them a lead, someone who will also stay well. But that was a top class performance. She's getting better with everyone. She's a big contender here for outright glory, I think.
Yeah. Hello, Diego again got to the front, just couldn't quite hold on, but he does 41.74 in defeat, Tommy. So I wouldn't be too disheartened by Hello, Diego if I was a supporter, if I had an anti-post voucher. But Braveheart Bambi on this occasion too strong.
No, but you consider like the next heat was one from the front of 42.17. I mean, unless the track is going funny, like to be beaten length and a half, 10 spots, 41.74, it's a fair effort. So I mean, there's a bit of improvement on that. Braveheart Bambi though it was very similar to the first heat, maybe even more dramatic. He showed even more pace come from way off the pace. So there's a bit of tracking involved in recording a time like that as well. I know track records are a bit lower, and that's a bit of work to be done to get near them. But I never really know. I mean, never really know when we're going to be on the verge of getting track records. I mean, you see some tracks and just go on fire, like Tralee has done at the moment, and that. So I mean, it's a bit like sectionals. Some days you just can't beat 210, and some days you can do 190. So I never seem to know where I stand with 750 racing in terms of clocks.
Yeah, I think plenty of these will come on for the opening round effort. I don't think there'll be any track records done in this competition. I think that's safe to say. Low Diego second. Air Flyer was back in third. Heat 3 was JT Craze. I think this fellow cramped a little bit in the closing yards. He seemed to be very tight crossing the line, Declan. But again, that early speed is there, and like I know there's a little bit to go in this Corn Cullen, but you can see him leading around the corner in the final already. Like that's what he does in over 750 yards. For some reason he's particularly sharp over the 750. I don't know whether there's traps over there that seem to suit him or whatnot, but he's been light and fast in the early yards in every one of his 6-bend starts.
He has, and you can ignore the time because he definitely can. It was his first run since he ran in the English Derby, I think, 4 or 5 weeks before. He just was running out of steam just a little bit at that time. But of course, he gets the trip perfectly well. He'll make a huge slice off that time next week, I would think. At this stage, I think he is the one to beat in the competition.
Yeah, because when you get off the front and you can gallop as strong as this fella is, he's going to be very hard to pick up. Hard to disagree with that, Tommy, in the sense where you can only see him come on for it.
And also, when you think that the other heats are being won from off the pace, he rails so tight and coming off the last bend as well. If you want to get by him, you're going to have to do some hard running.
Yeah, no question about it. And the last heat, this is a dog who certainly will stay further. I'd suggest Born a Viper. I think it's 2 from 2 now over the trip. Big 80-pounder, but loads of stamina. Good to see the Borna team with a good dog. Sorry, he's two wins over 750. He was actually out of luck in his novice 750, but 2 fine performances to back it up, Declan.
Yeah, Derek Tasman is this one, and this was 6-1 as well. I understand in this case because there was three standouts in the race. I understand his price, but he knows the track and trip. He's getting better all the time. It was a very good performance. He collected some notable scouts, that's for sure.
Yeah, he did. Do you know what? He may have only finished fourth, but I was actually quite impressed with Boyle Sports Blue here. I thought he nearly ran better than he did in his novice 750. Like, I think he can upgrade his run. Like, it's a 42-44, but it could have easily been 41-80. You know, he just didn't quite get the run on the open corner, lost a lot of ground. He's beaten 6 lengths in a length, having been forced to check again, I believe, around the fifth bend. So I thought it was a good run for him. Sunset Shannon was always second, but could never or was always prominent, should I say, could never really get cold born a Viper. And Keelan's joking, who's been running very well, was back in third. A decent little heat here. Sad to see Darby's Dancer going out. Thought there was more to come from her in this competition. Just didn't happen for her.
Well, Keelan's
I
joke
think
was
sorry, Tom. I think what happened, Darcy's answer was when Boys Force Blue was cut off at that bend. There was a bit of a kickback, and I think she got caught up on that. Boys Force was unlucky not to qualify in the end, actually, but just Keelan's Joker is such a good stair. He just did it on the line, basically, you know. So Boys Force was unlucky in two or three ways, to be honest about it.
Yeah, Tommy.
And in the same breath, the winner was lucky in one way because Keelan's Joker came right out across it early in the first 25 yards, and it checked inside, a beautiful bit of tracking to check inside. And then Boyle Sports Blue got squeezed up badly at the first bend, got fourth back on top of the tree, and how four Born a Viper got through along the inside, I'll never know. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck, but like Declan said, take 20 to 30 spots off that if you get it clear, if you get a properly clear run, not having to duck and dive just to get it. So nice performance.
It was a nice performance. That will continue at Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. Just before we go to Shelbourne Champion 550, you've already mentioned left corner back. We'll get to him in a moment. Razzle Dazzle Edward, good winner of the opening. He's very highly thought of, Declan. That's the one thing I know about him. Very highly thought of. Every night he runs. Hegarty gives me a good 10 minutes before racing about Razzle Dazzle Edward. Got to the front the other evening and held off Balnabola Joe well. And by a neck. I was a bit disappointed, I'll be honest, with Balnabola Joe. I was expecting more from him into the opening corner and down the back straight. His clocks and toes are stunning. The previous week he'd shown all sorts of pace down the back straight. Now he's only beaten a neck, and I'm sure he'll come on for that run. Rural Anna was back in third. I keep saying about her, she will want a little bit further. She's so strong. Just a really powerful lady. But a good winner, Razzle Dazzle Edward. You can see why Dolores likes him.
Very much so, and he knows Shelbourne well. I think it's a strange one. Previous week he was doing incredible trials, but he did need a race. You could just see it last week. He was just as I thought that Balnabola Joe last week was just a bit rusty as well. They both ran well. It was on the nod in the end, but I agree with you that we know about Balnabola Joe, how good he is, but Razzle Dazzle Edward is right up there. He's a very good dog, and he should keep improving.
Yeah, Tommy.
There'll be a 29-30 something on his card soon enough. I mean, last year when he was running, he was doing the 29-60s and 70s, that sort of stuff. To do that second time up, and when Balnabola Joe came up inside at the third bend and challenged around the last two bends along the inside, the battle back, really nice performance. Again, it's one of those where I expect a huge improvement over the next few weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Balnabola Joe and Rural Anna second and third. On to the second heat, left corner back. Declan, we've known about this fella for a while. He's been around like since last November. Obviously, he started his career off in good style around Enniscorthy. He didn't happen to go on and win the competition. That was the good Cody had stood on race take down there, but then showed real promise in the early rounds of the Kirby Memorial. Went out in the second round after we had been really excited by him. Had a bit of a layoff, and now he's back. And by all accounts, these two runs suggest that he's going to turn into the dog we think he's going to turn into. I think this was a serious run. The 29.43 on that track is massive. Just a massive run by a dog who's not an awful lot of him. 67 pounds, Declan, but every single part of him can run.
He is a light dog, and he's very lightly raced. Perhaps he's only ran in competitions, and you might like him to have just a few more races under his belt, but this was a stunning performance on Saturday. It absolutely was, and the previous week. It's a superb performance. I mean, we're talking about a potential Derby dog here. There's no doubt about it.
No, I think that's the case, all right. Tommy, he's trained by Thomas Lahey, of course, brother of Mert. Thomas doesn't have as many as Mert, but he's got a right one here.
Oh, he's got a right one again. Like similar sort of profile. Only a couple of runs recently, and in time to improve quite a bit on him. Kirby Memorial kind of signals how good he might be. It's still so much inexperience there.
Yeah. No, really nice dog. The son of Here Comes Sid, who of course was trained by Mert. He was a hugely fast greyhound. He only had a handful of races. I'm afraid it just didn't happen for him. Picked up an injury and he just couldn't shake it off. But he came from off the pace one night in Shelbourne Park to win 28-13. He just looked like he had the world at his feet. He only had 2 race wins in his card. That tells you how short his race career was. But it's nice to see him throwing 1 or 2 very decent types indeed. Left corner back. I just want to mention 1 run on the undercard. Or 2 runs. Obviously, there was a double there for the Ballymac crew. Ballymac Danica won the last race. I think she's coming back to her very best at 28.63. And Ballymac Rapid, Declan, I assume you were very impressed with this fellow. He is definitely looked a lot faster than 28.55 to my eye, although he did tie up in the home straight.
It was well, he 15.92 at third band. It was a superb performance, and it was his first time in Shelbourne. I'm almost sure. Very, very good. 28.55 isn't a bad run anyway. But it looked a better run than that for sure. Yeah,
15.92 to the third bend. So it was suggesting he was tying up. Tommy, I don't know if you got a chance to see Ballymac Rapid. He's one we'll hear more of. I think he's very well named.
Didn't see it. No, sorry.
Yeah, no, terrific early speed. Did hit the third bend in 15.92 and then tied up on the run home. Well, that's it from Shelbourne Park. Now we're going to head elsewhere.
Don't forget to pick up your weekly edition of The Sporting Press, Ireland's #1 greyhound newspaper. Available online from 8 p.m. each Tuesday on sportingpress.ie and in shops from Wednesday.
Yes, indeed, great action at Shelbourne Park, but there was also wonderful action at Tralee on Friday night because the Callaway Pro-Am at Stud Race of Champions took centre stage down there. And we had, well, the most incredible winner. Tommy, you have been chairperson of the Seven Beach Fan Club. I think I'm up there as treasurer with you. He is a stunning greyhound, but we saw... at the airport on Saturday on the way over to the Toaster, I was talking to a few men and they were like, I've never seen anything like it. Did you compare it to anything? And there was one name that I threw out, Clover Hair, Tommy. One of those absolutely lightning starts, like you used to see in the old spring-loaded traps. It was over within strides. I said to Declan off air, how do you go 4 lengths clear in 3 strides? It just doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, it's proper greyhound racing. A lot of these are proper greyhound performance. Is he better now than he was this time last year? He feels like he's been around too long to be better, but he is better. He is better, doesn't he? It doesn't feel intuitive. It doesn't seem right. But by God, I mean, when we watched it last week, we were saying, "Oh, the track is on fire," and the two heat winners flew out. 2 of the heat winners flew out, and it was all over. Something's going to have to give in the final. Something gave, all right. He gave them no chance whatsoever. He just absolutely rocked it. He's definitely now in that bracket of if you don't like Seven Beach, you don't like greyhound racing. Like that. I'm sorry, but like he might never win the Derby. Maybe he will now, but he might never win a Derby. But he's a dog we should be remembering as a proper greyhound. He's just a joy. He goes into a bracket. I'm glad to be able to say this in the last couple of years that there are a few greyhounds that have will give you that sort of feeling. And Tuono Charlie last year, Bacco's Diamond, those sort of greyhounds that will just say this is what greyhound racing is about. Seven Beach he's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant to watch.
Declan, the one thing about him, for much of his career, we were going, will he ever win one? Will he ever win one? And in a rat-a-tat-tat fashion, like the 46A, Declan, 3 come along in a row. We have the Gold Cup, the Select Stakes, and now the Race of Champions. And he got better with each of those competitions.
Well, first of all, can I tell you the 46A is now the E2, and there's still 3 or 4 coming together. Yes, and you're right. The thing about him was that he last year he wasn't getting those trophies, and this season he certainly is. That's a huge change straight away. He is a better dog. I have to admit. I mean, the Oaks final was a one-sided affair for a totally different reason. Although the winner was absolutely brilliant, but this was. I mean, if you look at the quality of dogs that were behind him and where they were even going into the band, they needed binoculars to see him. I mean, the search people were putting out a search party for them, And like these are serious greyhounds. It was a stunning performance. I'd say it's one of the best individual performances that I've ever seen. And ironically enough, the first dog sprung to mind to me was Bucko's Diamond. It had a Bucko's Diamond touch about it. It was a brilliant performance. I mean, the quality of the opposition. And the lineup there was as good as the Oaks fan, or dare I suggest the English Derby fan. And that's how good it was. And it was no contest. It was just no contest. Now whether you ever do that again,
it was one of those races where you go, God, how good was he into the old? Like, I remember Susie Sapphire's Derby Final. I took a screenshot the next day, and she was 3 clear on the winning line first time up. You talk about Bucko's Diamond, maybe the semi-finals of the Derby last year, where it was just so flawless, away and gone. He was clear of good dogs from first stride. This was every bit as good as that. He was just away and gone, and throw a track record into boot, and it's just a remarkable performance. Text John Mitchell soon after the race, congratulations, what a dog he is. And John said, you see that now with trials in Kilkenny, like they'd be hand slipping the dog beside the trial, and they give him a 5-length start and the dog's in the traps. And that's what it looked like. It looked like he had literally started a second earlier.
What the other owners thought, and they have all great dogs. Every one of them have great dogs. What's their thoughts saying? They're driving home from that. I just don't know. Now, can he keep it going? Of course he can. That's 3 or 4 competitions that he's actually won in a row now. So it's on to the Champion Stakes. It's on to the Derby, surely. We have to give Jennifer. We have to give Jennifer a mention, and of course Francis. In the same text, John Mitchell just said, he says those 2 women are lethal. He said there's nothing they wouldn't do for the dog. They are lethal, and just the results over the last few years have been like there, and going back to Matt's time as well. Like it's just been an incredible factory of winning greyhounds, and he's just they wouldn't win 3 Irish Derbies in 4 years, would they?
You never know.
Yeah.
Tommy, Seven Beach. I would suggest that it's all pretty mapped out now. I'd say he'll have a run or two in Shelbourne Park, and then after the Derby, that'd be the line. Wouldn't it give him another rest, maybe?
They're not a kennel that keep a lot of dogs. But I dare say the Derby team this year might be the strongest they've ever sent. And even though they've won 2 of the last 3, Derby team this year, the whole team might be stronger than they've ever sent to the Derby, I'd say. Seven Beach has to be there. He's got everything now apart from youth on his side, apart from the potential to improve further. We know exactly what we're getting with him. It's like Declan said, can you do it for 6 rounds? You don't have to do it for 6 rounds if you can keep qualifying, but he is he's a match for anybody. I wouldn't like to be having a warm-up race against him. That's all I'd say, because you won't be winning the warm-up no matter who you are. If you're going to be teeing up for a Derby, you're in the early rounds of the Derby, you're playing for qualifying spots, and how far he can go. I mean, twice the semi-finalist, is he? I mean, if he's not a finalist based in that sort of form, I don't know what he is, but I hope he does go all the way to the final, because the type is, like I talked last week about the English Derby being one of the best finals, Derby finals I've seen in a long time. It's because of the Greyhounds, obviously, they qualified for it. We want a Seven Beach to qualify for an Irish Derby final for lots of reasons, and to help make it a better race being the main one.
Yeah, no, just a terrific greyhound. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. He won the dual distance in Shelbourne Park last year, $2,500, and that was probably the first competition he probably won. He'd been involved in so many dogs. Like, he was even second the likes of Tipperary Cup last year, and yeah, just incredible, campaigner. I'm not as aware of the sectionals in Tralee, but I can suggest that 418 is right up there. I'd be amazed. if any more than 1 or 2 dogs have ever matched or gone faster than it. Callaway Kinnigear was in second spot. He's only beaten 4 lengths. When you think about it, like he's doing 29.37. Like it's not a bad run by Callaway Kinnigear. Did show a bit more life in the early yards. So who's to say what can happen from him? Obviously, his brother won the English Derby on the following evening. Sing Along Molly was back in third. It didn't really happen for the remainder. Not sure about the comments on the card. I think they're attached to the wrong greyhounds. The winner balked to track record, and his sectionals or his corners sectionals are down as 5.666. So I clearly think that's belonging to one of the other greyhounds. We're not going to get into that here and now, but Seven Beach, wherever he turns up, he's going to be a force. And when you have that sort of a start in your armory, anything can happen. Anything can happen, especially if you save it for the big night like he did on Friday night. Now we're going to end up our run. Our look at the action in Ireland over the weekend at Curraheen Park and Saturday night. A couple of notable displays, including that, of course, in the final of the Dennis Linden Solicitors Open on Race Stake. Declan, could you tell me what won this last year?
I can't straight off. I can't.
English Derby champion.
English Derby champion Droopys Plunge won it last year, and Callaway Kinnegay was
Yeah,
behind them.
yeah.
So 2 classic winners already from last year's final. Toolmaker King. He's a real bright prospect, 4 to 7 chance. He went to the front early and always just seemed to have the measure of the dogs in behind him. I'm really taken by Turn the Magic On. I think he's a really nice dog. Obviously, he faded away to finish 3rd, but he challenged down the back straight. And Ballymac Lake was 2nd, came through for 2nd spot. A very decent dog as well. I suspect we'll be hearing more of these, Tommy, but I think the winner, just given the prices he was starting in the opening round, he started odds on. Yes, he was a bigger price last week, but won well in 28-25. And then the other evening, I think Solo and Go was an absentee in his absence. Yeah. Toolmaker King obviously had that bit of space on the inside of the track and made full use of a 28-13 off at 3:31. Just looking at his profile, 3:46, 3:41, 3:31. That's what you want to see from a youngster. He's improved every night.
Yeah, and I think what told me, I wasn't talking to anybody involved in the round, but what told me that they thought he was a really good dog was his price in the second round and also his performance in the second round. When it went in hot, I was looking the first round going, does he have the early pace? Looked at the second round, he was in against hot early pace. He was able to more than match it. And the other night, he was able to lead and also show good battling qualities. I was quite taken with Ballymac Lake. You don't seem to be as enamoured. I was quite taken with him.
I'll be honest now, Tommy. The last time I looked at the race, it was probably about 2 a.m. Okay, I was sitting surrounded by good company, and someone said, "Here, have a look at the race." So let's not take too much out of my read of it.
Well, I think that we keep talking about the winner is probably a Derby dog. Whatever Derby this is, I don't know. Is it this year's? Is it next year's English Derby? Is it next year's Irish Derby? Is it this year's Irish Derby? Is it Juvenile Derby? Whatever. I don't have the clue what it is, but I tell you what, he's Derby class, and it has turned into a fantastic stake in a short time. It really has. I mean, if you have an English Derby winner, I mean, I think Droopys plunged at 27.94, was it last year? 27.94 in the final. That's yeah. And this, I think even though the clocks aren't the same, I think this renewal stands up to it.
Yeah. You look at his breeding again. Another one for the Dunphys, the Droopys Kennel, Droopys Flightline, Droopys Mandolin are both half comrades. The last litter, Droopys Tumic Curio, Droopys Expected, they were decent, but that first litter was exceptional. And now we've got, he's basically the first to run from the litter. There was another one that ran in the litter. He no chance to run on debut. Really got badly done early, so we don't know how good he is. But Toolmaker King looks a very decent one. Droopys Curio, she was an absolutely sensational tracker herself. She broke track record on debut at Newbridge, and she's producing greyhounds, and be very, very interesting to see where he goes now. I assume the puppy derby, the juvenile derby, will be very much on the horizon for him. As you said, the earlier start this year caught us out, but it's probably perfect timing for a dog of this nature. And if he does go that route, he will have plenty of time to sort of just mature up and get a crack at the Irish Derby if that's the route they want to go down. But Declan just looks a really nice type, and this is the type of dog that Robert Gleason's getting his hands on. A lot of fast dogs over the last few years.
Absolutely he is, and it's an interesting point you're making there, because it just like we're only adjusting now to the fact that the juvenile derby will probably be before the other derby. It also gives that dog a chance to get to know Shelbourne very well. So yeah, it seems to me an inspired move. I know it was all traditionally in September, and we used to love it then, and it had its place in the calendar. But you've got to be pragmatic sometimes. You've got to just go see the way things are developing. It worked well last year, I thought, and I think it's a good move. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what they run on the Friday night of Derby weekend. I assume they'll have something lined up for us. You know what I mean? Something a bit different, because obviously that was a big draw the Friday night for especially travellers from coming from the UK. You go to Shelbourne on a Friday, you see all the youngsters, the pups. Who knows what will be happening on the Friday night this year? Just one more mention on the card on Saturday night at Curraheen Park. 2 to 5 chances. Tommy, I wouldn't often be tempted to back them, but if you put Bronstrand Sid and drop one around Curraheen Park, I suggest 2 to 5 is never a bad price.
Broad Transit is just a dog that's just going to take a little bit of time. I was impressed with Nestor there a few weeks ago when I was in Curraheen Park. Actually beat Seven Beach, I think, did he? He beat Seven Beach one night there. And
beat him by length,
yeah. And both of them needed the run, curiously enough. So I think I look at Broad Transit. It's just great to see him back winning races, back running well. That's all it is.
Yeah, 28.02, Declan. Nothing wrong with that. Broadstrand Sid. You would suspect that it'll be all roads lead to Dundalk once again. He was so good at Dundalk last year, of course, Crown Sprinter of the Year, and by all accounts, given him all the time he needed to get over whatever woes he had. It was never too bad. It was always just niggly little problems. But here he's back. He's had a few runs in quick succession. 28.02 off a 3.18 section, Tommy. Declan, you would imagine that Broadstrand Sid is going to again emerge as one of the leading players at Dundalk, although the sprint division has taken off a bit this year.
It has, but he's proven there and he's in form and everything else. And that Sprint Cup dogs very often come back and run well the year after. You know, we have some very good sprinters around. It'll be a tremendous competition for sure, but he has to go there,
yeah. There was a notable trial actually the other night. I was only told about it, I haven't checked it. No, leave that with me. I can't remember the name of the dog. I know it's the Tank dog. He's the dog that the Hennessy's have. I believe he did a 2075 or something around the Dundalk the other evening. I know Epic Ace trialled very well there. So all of a sudden that it could be worth throwing an eye over maybe the sprinters, because that Bar One Racing Irish Sprint Cup is coming up very soon indeed.
The 2025 Boyle Sports Irish Greyhound Derby is fast approaching. Make sure you're part of the action on the biggest night in Irish Greyhound racing. Tickets for the final are on sale now. Visit Shelbourne Park Greyhoundstadium.ie to get yours.
That's all we need to really touch upon from Ireland. If we did miss out one or two events, well, I think you'll understand it's just a lot to try and cram in, because we do want to mention the English Greyhound Derby. And I'm going to leave it to you, Tommy. I was there obviously on Saturday night, 5 Irish runners. We were expecting just to arrive over and pick up the prize at some variety. It was a perfect storm. You know, lots of things happened in this race that just went against us and went against certain dogs, but you got to give great credit to Patrick Janssens. The last time that Ireland were properly denied in the final, where they thought they had things sewn up, was the year that Thorn Falcon did everything right. And much like Thorn Falcon and Clara Lyon on that night, the comrades, Droopys Plunge, he got him out of boxes, and like for a few strides, it looked like he was going to make the corner. If that was the case, he was going to win very easily. Now, he was swallowed a bit into the bend. He doesn't drive a great opening bend, but I'll tell you one thing. Down the back straight, it was pretty clear he was going to play a big part of proceedings, and that's exactly what happened. Bombay Pat got off the front, which I genuinely wouldn't have backed at 100-1. He surprised me somewhat. We knew he had the pace, we knew he had the speed, but it was a case of the trapping has not been good enough. Now, he trapped reasonably well the other evening. His early pace in the bend was phenomenal. Bocco's Diamond went second. Cheap Sam just got around in third eventually after forced to swing wide. Bocco's challenged down the back straight, but I'm afraid their goose was cooked when Droopys Plunge got that dream run up the inside around the last two bends, and the rest, as they say, is history.
I absolutely hated everything about the Derby, English Derby final, apart from the result. I have no problem with the result. I have no problem with English dog winning it, because I think it's important if we were going to dominate. It's a bit like Declan alluded to about Cheltenham. I have the same issues with our dominance in Cheltenham that Declan has. We don't mind it in one sense, in fair play to whoever's involved in creating the dominance, because they're working hard to get to that position, but it has an impact. And so I don't have any problem with Droopys Plunge winning. And Droopys Plunge coming from winning the Dennis Linehan last year and coming out of the Droopys stud, which just produces just top dogs month after month, not even year after year, month after month. So I've no problem with that. But I absolutely despise the final. It left a sour taste on what I had lauded as being the best derby I had watched, English derby I had ever watched, start to finish, produced performance after performance. But then what's horrible about any race is when you have the three greyhounds that you would have put as likely breaking fourth, fifth, and sixth, or first, second, and third. You're kind of going, well, something's after happening here. I didn't see the front view. Did something charge the traps? Did the traps open slightly late, slightly early? What happened? Something went wrong in the end, and it left a sour taste for me. I say nothing to do with the result. It doesn't matter. That's fair play to Patrick Janssens. He showed with Thorn Falcon that he can do it on the night and get a dog to be primed for a night. And actually, to be fair to him, it's exceptionally good training is what it is. That's the reality of the performance. It's exceptional training performance from Patrick Janssens. to have the dog as good as it was on the night. But for like you don't I don't follow greyhound sport or horse racing to have form just thrown on its head for random reasons. And that seemed to me what happened the other night when you have Buffett Diamond, who's a breaker, doing 395 the week before, Solomeo 395, the same thing the week before. You have Cheap Sandwiches, who's been as reliable as you can get out of boxes. Maybe not a 395 dog every night, but reliable. And then the three of them are missing it, and you're leaving yourself looking at a race going, what is this? What happened here? And I say, the result doesn't matter. I congratulate everybody involved in Droopys Plunge, and it was a smashing performance to fly home again, having led out of boxes and then been outpaced a little bit. Buckler's Diamond ran one hell of a race. I can't understand from the photo finish and the end of the race how Cheap Sandwiches was the second. The poor thing. It looked for all the world to me on the photo that he had got up for second place. He finished fourth. I couldn't believe it when I saw the result.
Well, I was just going to say, he wasn't even third.
He finished fourth.
The laddie dad ran the most remarkable race to actually finish as close as he did.
And he was the one dog in the Derby final I did not fancy whatsoever. I thought the draw was absolutely horrible. Everything about the draw for him, I thought the other night was a disaster. The only dog in the Derby I didn't fancy. He ran his heart out, in fairness to him. But it's just a really uncomfortable feeling after a Derby that delivered so much to me. I don't mind an upset. If it's just that Droopys Plunge came, he was back in 20s and 10s, and fair play to those who got involved in that punt during the week.
Best price sevens on the night.
On the night, yeah.
That 10s is industry price, yeah.
And he was 12s. I think he was 12s, around about 12s in the machine, kind of harboring around about that sort of price. And if he had just come and won the race, we'd have said, you know what, that's brilliant training, which it was, because he was dog had 27.94. You mentioned a minute ago in Curraheen Park, and so the potential to do something huge was there. But the race itself, just so unsatisfactory. Say not the results, just the race itself. I'm deeply disappointed that that's how it finished, because it had been the best derby, English derby I'd ever watched.
Declan, I'm going to put it down to noise, maybe something charged boxes and whatnot, but I just think it was one of those situations where it was a different occasion. I didn't notice anything, and I'd be pretty keen now on keeping an eye on boxes and stuff like that. But as it was, he flashed out and the others didn't. Now, when I say flashed out, like, he's still only doing a 4.0. Like, nothing broke 4 seconds, and I think 4.03 or 4.04 would nearly have led on the up at the line first time up. But when it comes down to it, he was in the perfect position off the second bend and made most of it.
Well, the winner, I mean, there's no way looking at it. It was a strange race in many ways, as Tom said. But I think, first of all, he had to come behind two Derby winners. And Bombay Pat, who's a serious hound at any time, and he did it. It's a straight 3 or 4 dogs had their chance of winning it. You know, they're in position to win it, and they didn't do it. You know, so it is a strange race, but I think first it's fantastic in some respects. I know I'll get lynched for this, that we had an English winner, because, you know, we don't want the team to be completely monopolised. The price, going back to when Mark Robinson's dog won the Irish Derby, he was something like 20-1 during the week. How that happened, he was sure to lead, had his box, you know, and that's the kind of price he was. Those things don't come around too often. Cheap Sandwiches must be one of the unluckiest dogs in training. I should say he finished 4th in the end. He was done twice in the race. I did think the lad that was going to win it at one stage. Then you're sure Walker's time was going to win it. But of course, Tom's first point is a very good one. It was one of the best finals ever, and with 6 dogs that good racing together, unless somebody gets away, or, you know, it's something, there is going to be traffic. There is going to be hustling and jostling and everything else, and he did get the dream run up the inside at the end, but he took it when the door opened. He went through. You know,
only 2.25 lengths, basically, even less. Like, it's 2 lengths and 3 short heads separated the first, you know, the whole 60. It was a remarkable finish. Bucko's Diamond, I thought, ran like, for any greyhound to make up ground on Bombay Pat to the third bend, to challenge him up the inside. Now, maybe if the two of them had been the other way around at that point, because I thought they were rubbing shoulders at that point, thought it cost them a little bit of momentum, but you just knew that they were not going to stay tight to the fence, and that Droopys Plunge, who at that stage was far too close. Simple as that. And, you know, you got chatting to people afterwards, and they were saying this and that. And, you know, I actually had to ask them, I said, at what point do you think Droopys Plunge hit the front? And they were like, oh, he got up in the line. He wins a length and a half. I said, he hits the front 50 yards from the line. Like it wasn't a case of he just got there. Like he won by a length and a half, and like that's a UK length and a half. So that's 12. In our language, that's a length and 3/4. You know what I mean? It was just one of those races. It was, as I said, a perfect storm. Just things didn't happen. You know, personally, from my own point of view, it didn't matter what dog it was, but I just loved that Derby to be won, bang, get out in front and do your running.
Oh no.
As it was, there was traffic in the race, but it wasn't bad traffic. It was just racing, and in the end, Droopys Plunge got there.
I see. I've no issue with any of the traffic. I've no issue with any of that sort of stuff, and I certainly have no issue with Droopys Plunge winning it. But I have an issue with the first 10 yards of the race. I mean, there's if you flip form completely, there's got to be a reason why it's all of a sudden just flipped, and it's not because like Graham Holland showed last year with Buckles Diamond that he and Cheap Sandwiches that he can and even Bombay Pat to he desperately looking not to qualify through to the Derby final last year, the Irish Derby. He like that these dogs can improve and can produce week after week after week, and all of a sudden it just gets turned on its head. That's what's annoyed me about the whole race. I have no issue whatsoever with Droopys Plunge. I think like Declan was saying, it's a fabulous performance. It really is. You're beating top dogs, and that's what it should be about. But I think if there's not an element of form in it, I don't know what I'm doing looking at it every week in, week out, trying to figure it out. And I don't think there was an element of form about it. I think something happened early on that completely threw it on its head. And look, you can say that's just greyhound racing, or that's the joyous sport that things don't always work out the way they should do. But like, if it happened to just Buckles Diamond completely missed it and everything else ran to the way they should have been, then you say, oh, well, that's just greyhound racing. Or if just Cheap Sandwiches just missed it and everything else did exactly what you expected of them and left the way open for Droopys Plunge to win it, then you say, well, that's just greyhound racing. That's fine. But when it just completely flipped on its head, that just left a sour taste in my mouth. I say, just over the picture, not the winner, not the result, just the whole picture of the English Derby is what it did to me. And I know I'm cranky.
Yeah, no, but we know that. We've known that long ago. Do you know what won't leave a sour taste is the fact that we know that 5 of these are going to line up in the Irish Greyhound Derby. And that is something to look forward to, Declan. You throw in the few youngsters coming through, and this time last year we said the Derby winner will be a first season dog. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a second season dog this year. There's some very special greyhounds around. Even that, we have a first season dog in the final, Solomio. He didn't get the run that he would have wanted and needed, but we've got 5 greyhounds going to the Irish Derby, and that really does serve up a treat.
Solomio probably was the one that never really got a run. I know he's a young dog and all the rest of it. Every final that happens, something, it's just he'll be going for the Irish Derby as well. Of course he will. But then, we have Jennifer's dog will be going for this Derby for the second or third time. He's one of the leading campaigners, so it's
third season dog,
yeah. So there you go. Yeah,
it's pretty remarkable. It really is pretty remarkable. One thing I do have to mention is that Droopys Plunge. How often have we seen it, lads? I always bring it back to the Bypass Byway quarterfinal, where he was out of the Derby and he somehow managed to get up for third. And that night I said, he wins the Derby now. Like that's that run out of the way, that little bit of bad luck he rode it, whatnot. Droopys Plunge was gone out of the Derby last week, gentlemen, until Dynamic Force sadly picked up an injury. And here we are. He gets into us, not sneaks in third. He was good third in the end, but he wasn't going to be third if it hadn't been for Dynamic Force. And on these little moments, greyhound racing changes, and Droopys Plunge was there. And yes, the reason he was been backed was because he got track 1. I know that the vast majority of the money that made him from 28-1 to, let's say, 12-1 came in those 10 seconds after he was drawn trap 1. He was the first dog drawn. There wasn't a wide seat drawn first. He was the first dog drawn. And I know that there were men at the draw backing him there. And then once they saw the draw, because they knew his price was going to be halved, if not even more, as it was 7-1 on track, 10-1 SP return. But one of those things. We're after leaving it behind us, gentlemen. But listen, we'll be back. I have no doubt that the Irish will come with a very strong challenge again next year. And I know certainly the connections of those in behind. You can suspect that the likes of Graham Holland and Graham Box and Bev Lockheed and Liam Dowling and everyone involved in the Laddie Dad, even the Cheap Sandwiches Brigade. Peter Crone will certainly be back. So, bring it on, and we look forward to getting them back. Hopefully Droopys Plunge will come to Ireland. I don't know. You know, I can't remember as Patrick come before. He's been tempted before. I know he got in touch one or two occasions about coming over. I don't know off the top of my head. It's just not the right day to be asking me these questions. It'll dawn on me now in about 10 minutes time, but who's to say if he comes over or not? It'd be great to see him because he is a Shelbourne Park type greyhound. He has run there in the past. Probably not put his best foot forward at Shelbourne Park to date, but he was very young in his career and he's now a Derby champion. What a litter they've been, Droopy Sydney, Droopy Sweet Old Callaway, Kinnegare, and others. Obviously, Droopy's Buckham was an English Derby semi-finalist as well, so a very talented litter. Gentlemen, anything more to add? Anything you want to say before we go?
No, we've said nothing, I think.
You did anyway. You need to get to the pool, get yourself a cocktail, Tommy. Knock the crust off you. Declan, a good week in Shelbourne Park, but lots coming up. Corncucullen, Champion 550. That's a great Champion 550 final on Saturday night. Corncucullen is going to be really interesting. And of course, did we mention that the Juvenile Derby starts in a few weeks' time? Lots to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely, and there was great racing on Friday as well. That Dr. Darcy looks a very smart dog. Not 5-5 admittedly, but he's certainly a very serious. There's great racing at Shelbourne at the moment, and long may continue. Yeah.
And credit to those people who are making those changes. It goes to show that the tweaks in the calendar didn't just stop. We did laud them how good they were in the last 2 years and how that it's coming together. And it's a really difficult thing to do, as I said a couple of weeks ago, to change a big state. It has a knock-on impact on a lot of other things. So you have to, it's such a fine balance. So credit to them, hers too.
The one thing about it'll be Puppy Derby then this year rather than Juvenile Derby. Maybe, yes, down as the Puppy Derby rather than Juvenile Derby. So it'll mean there's proper 2-year-old greyhounds, or not quite 2-year-old greyhounds. They will actually be puppies. It could be a more Puppy Derby. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because it's earlier in the year, they'll have less experience because the natural thing with the Kirby nowadays is they try and throw the litters in that sort of bracket between February and April, May. So these won't be as well raced as perhaps in previous years.
And the knock-on might be an even stronger Champion Stakes because the dogs that'll be just over the 2 years of age might say, hey, we take our chance here, get a bit of experience up against top dog, the top Derby dogs, get a chance. So there might be a deeper Champion Stakes even.
Yeah, lots to look forward to. My thanks again to the Dublin Doyen, Declan O'Donoghue, and the exiled Tommy Lyons, who's exiled from the country, the exiled Irishman at the moment. We will let him back in at some point. Certainly, if he just calms down a little bit, he'll be back in. Get a few cocktails into you, Tommy. My thanks again to both men, and that's it from us on Talking Dogs on Monday. Congratulations to Nora Coffey, to Graham Holland on capturing the Sporting Press online edition Irish Oaks with the wonderfully fast Carrigmore Freya. She's about to go 3 years of age. I think there's still better to come from her. I think this is a lady that's really in the peak of her powers at present. We look forward to seeing her again in action. And of course, well done to Droopys Plunge and all connected to him for capturing the English Greyhound Derby over at Toaster. It was supposed to be the Irish Greyhound Derby, but no, it turned out to be the English Greyhound Derby, trained by a Belgian. Anyway, Droopys Plunge, a good winner. That's it from us. We'll see you next week. Good luck, good evening, God bless.
This podcast was brought to you by Greyhound Racing Ireland.